Well, hello and welcome to something we're all really excited about today here at Sage Goddess. You are hopefully here for the free crystal healing class to teach you about the ways to work with some of these core and very important different shapes of your favorite crystals. So there's going to be a lot of show and tell, a lot of giveaways, and a little surprise. And I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for coming and sharing some of your afternoon or your evening with me. It's dinner time on the eastern coast of the U.S. How are you guys today? Wonderful to see you. So this is, for those of you who've been like, I've thought about taking your online classes and kind of wondered what they're like. This gives you a little bit of a taste of me and what I do and my teaching style. I teach a class called Crystal Masters. We meet once a month, and you can actually join that class anytime. So if this wets your whistle today and you're like, I want more, then I'll show you how to register for Crystal Masters. And I'm joined by Karen in the feed and Alexis in the room.
Hi everyone.
So we are thrilled to have you. Ashley's making pot roast. I'll be right over. I'm so glad you've been looking forward to it. So let me kind of share with you kind of the overview of today. And I'm going to start with a little bit of more broad generic information, because I want to talk about not just what is crystal healing, but how does crystal healing actually work. And a lot of you know I have a PhD. I'm trained as a scientist. Before Sage Goddess, I was a college professor. And so I really appreciate science and facts and information and data. And I'm not someone who's easily satisfied with like quick explanations. I want to know not just what, but how. And so I want to talk a little bit about the how of crystals. And I've been working with crystals. If you're new to me, anybody like new to Sage Goddess, never seen, like, hopefully you know who I am, but you are new to everything that I do. If you are new, I just want to welcome you in and say that we're really glad that you're here. A lot of you are not new. You're experienced professionals, but it's wonderful to welcome in folks who might be joining us for the first time today too. So I've been working with crystals since I was about 8 years old. 7, 8 years old is when I got my first piece of amethyst. What a surprise that the person who loves purple and has purple hair would choose amethyst as her first crystal. Ever since then, it's been a love affair. I got a job when I was, as soon as I legally could, at 15, and my first paycheck was to buy a crystal book. There was a little book with a crystal section and an astrology section. I've been doing what we do for a really long time. I'm turning 49 on Tuesday, so that kind of helps you do the math. And so this is a 40-year love affair in my life, and I've been doing Sage Goddess for 11 years. We just turned 11 at the end of July. So you're in good hands. We've been doing this for a long time. I'm working on my 4th book right now. You can find 3 of my books on Amazon if you want to learn more. There's a crystal history book, and there's a book on chakras, and then my book of blessings. But where I want to start with you today is back up the truck and talk about why crystals. So the reason that crystals are so powerful comes down to an acronym, what we call the dominant oscillatory rate. And I don't want to go too crazy scientific. This isn't a science class. But I also want to answer the question you're probably holding, which is, how do crystals even work? Every single crystal in your collection has a structure. And what is a crystal structure? Crystals are highly organized systems, okay? And there are 6 primary different crystal structures. We're not going to go into all that today because we don't have enough time. But this is the kind of information that we do talk about in Crystal Masters. And so if you're interested, you can go there and join me for more. But I want to say at the highest level, crystals have internal structures, and they're highly organized and repetitive, unlike humans. So this crystal has a dominant oscillatory rate. The dominant oscillatory rate is the rate at which the energy of the crystal structure itself, the vibration of that structure. And every structure has a different vibration, and every vibration that it's aligned to has a different meaning. So these crystals are doing very different things on my energy field right now because of the fact that they have 2 different structures and 2 different vibrations and frequencies, and they're also 2 different colors. And there is something called color magic, right? Crystals that are pink and red are going to activate more of what we call the heart chakra. And crystals that are purple are going to activate more of the crown chakra. So there's a lot that goes into your choice of a crystal. And you may say, well, no, Athena, I just bought that crystal because it's green and I like green things. Consciously, that may have been the process, but subconsciously, there might be something in you going, I think my heart needs healing. And the green crystals and the pink crystals activate the heart chakra for healing. Okay, now, here's what I want to say. Crystals have a repeating structure, right, and a dominant oscillatory rate. They are stable, so they do not change over time. Humans do not have a stable structure. We do not have one single dominant oscillatory rate. We have multiple systems in our body, a digestive system, we have a circulatory system, right, a muscular skeletal system, and each one of our systems has its own dominant oscillatory rate, and that dominant oscillatory rate varies. When you're sick, it's one rate. When you're well, it's another rate. When the systems are in balance, they vibrate in a certain way. When they're out of balance, they vibrate another way. In other words, we are completely inconsistent, and crystals are completely consistent, and this is why they are healers. Crystals also have something, and I want to get the spelling right for you because I always screw up the spelling on this word, piezoelectricity. And what that means is that they emit an electric charge. They do, and we are electrical beings. And so what you need to know about crystals and about yourself too is that you have an energetic field, okay? If you stretch your arms out in front of you right now, that is kind of the boundary of your, what we call your personal energetic field. This is why we say personal space, right? Like anybody who's closer to you than this is in your field, and you're exchanging energy and frequency and like data with them. It's almost like downloading from their phone, okay? So anybody who's in your personal energetic field is operating on you, for better or worse, right? They're bringing good energy in, that's great. They're bringing funk in, that's not great. The crystals have the same size energetic field. So any crystal that is within 2 to 4 feet of you is, again, modulating, regulating, integrating, healing your personal energetic frequency, okay? Lori's asking a great question. How long does it take for crystals to form? Anywhere from a few thousand years up to several million years. And it depends on, the continent, which impacts the geology. It depends on how deep a crystal grows, right? Is it forming at the top level of the Earth's crust, or is it way down forming more toward the center of the Earth, which is going to bring higher heat? And in some cases that can expedite the growth process of crystals. So it really depends. So these are great questions, and I will go back and forth and try to answer questions as we go. But I wanted to start there because so many people say, I don't believe crystals work. I will tell you, for me personally, I've had 3 really serious autoimmune diseases over the course of my life. Crohn's disease when I was 18, and then Graves' disease when I was 33, and then I was diagnosed with MS when I was 12 years ago, so that is, 36? So I will tell you, I attribute my health to a lot of things. I'm a good patient, I take my medicine, but I probably shouldn't be as healthy as I am. And I really do attribute my health to the metaphysical work that I do, to sound and frequency healing, to working with plant medicine, and also working with crystals and aromatherapy and essential oils. And so all of these things for me are part of what I call a holistic healing path. Right? My doctor always jokes and says, I don't know what you're doing that's working, so just keep doing all of it, because something is working and we can't isolate which variable it is. So I keep doing all the things, and I also love it too. I find crystals beautiful and really fun. So yeah, if you've been diagnosed with major illnesses, stick with me. I talk a lot about the spiritual origins of disease and also which crystals might be best for helping with different conditions, and certainly conditions of the central nervous system, which is the system that's running electricity through you, right? I mean, that is your electric field. Respond beautifully to crystals. So anybody who has neurological or central nervous system conditions, I love to hear about it, because a lot of us, when we get diagnosed, only hear bad news. You start reading online, it doesn't look good, right? But once you start to realize that you're an electric being, that you carry an electric charge, and that charge can be impacted positively by working with very stable structures like crystals, it's a really interesting course of study. And hopefully you find that there's a lot of there, you know what I mean? That there's a lot of meat on that bone. It isn't just airy-fairy woo-woo wave a pink crystal and the love fairies will come to you. It's like, that's not how we roll here at Sage Goddess. We like to work with the fun parts of crystal healing, but also the very serious and scientific aspects of crystal healing too. So I'm going to start by talking about the most basic tool you got to have in your collection, okay? The most basic tool is a wand. And there are different kinds of wands, don't you know? There are single terminated wands, which means 1 point, and then the other side is rounded. And this can be either machine made or carved, right? Like this piece was carved and kind of polished. Or you can actually have a single terminated wand that's just a quartz point that's been cut from a cluster, for example. That counts as a single terminated wand. It is nice if they're rounded on the other end, because a rounded end of a crystal is a gathering point. That's where energies come together and coalesce. So the more rounded you have, more round of an end you have on your single term, in my opinion, the better. Sometimes a Sage Goddess will have single terminated wands that actually have like a sphere on the end. Have you seen those? Those are super pretty too. So yeah, so you're right with me, Amber. So single terminated wands, 1 point is pointy, one end is pointy, and the other end is not. It's either polished or it's rough and raw, natural. A double terminated wand is 2 points, a point on each end. Now you'll have some double terminated wands that are equidistant up and down, right, the entire length, so they're the same width. And then you'll have some double terminated wands that have a wider end and a more narrow end, and those are called Vogels. Vogels are a very specific type of double terminated wand, and I'm going to teach you today how to work with a Vogel, because how many of you ever have pain? It's a remarkable tool for releasing pain and stuck energy. What pain is energy that can't move through your system. This is why we go to acupuncturists, for example. What does an acupuncturist do? They use needles to create pathways for chi, right, or ki, for life force to run through your body through different channels. A lot of you go to acupuncturists. We use crystals for the same thing. This is basically crystal acupuncture. And I'm excited to teach you because it's one of my favorite modalities, and because I sometimes suffer with neuropathy and neuralgia. And like I had a rotator cuff situation. I have used Vogels so successfully, I've been able to manage my pain with no pain medication, which is remarkable that I live completely pain medication free, especially given that I have MS and I've had it for, a quarter of my life, at least, since diagnosis, right? So I want to teach you this today as a pain relief tool too. Here's the difference, okay? And the length doesn't matter. It's a great question from Ruth Scott. It absolutely doesn't matter. It's fine to use a short. This is a power tool. And you might go, Athena, it's a very small power tool. And you would not be wrong. And it might potentially be jealous of this, but it shouldn't be, because size doesn't matter when it comes to crystals. I'm not going to say size doesn't matter ever, but I will tell you that when it comes to crystals, it really doesn't. It's what matters with crystals is the shape and the intention, truly, and the wisdom of the person holding it, right? If you just hold a crystal but you don't know what to do with it, and you don't know how to set an intention, and you know what I mean, it's not going to do, it will still be working on your field, but not in a way that you expect. So crystal healing is the union of a particular form of a crystal structure and your intention for how that crystal will work and will operate, okay? So these little cuties, like we have these at Sage Goddess, and this is like a top selling product for us. They're under $10, and it's clear quartz. Clear quartz is the most abundant mineral on the planet, okay? It really truly is. It's silicon dioxide is the geological name of this mineral, and it grows on every continent around the world. Now it's different, in Tibet you're going to find quartz that has carbon inside of it, so it'll have like little black spots. And in Brazil, sometimes you'll find quartz that has rutile in it, like little bars and beautiful inclusions. There's more than 24 different inclusions in quartz that grow in Brazil alone. So it partly depends on where you get it. We love our Brazilian quartz around here, but we love our Tibetan quartz too. These are Brazilian. And so quartz is the most common material for you to find in a wand. Now let me go back to single term and double term real quick before we start talking about stone types, okay? Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you so much for coming, and stay tuned. I'm going to get to all your questions before we're done today. We just got started, honey. I got 45 minutes with you, and I'm going to use every minute to the fullest. A single terminated wand gathers energy on the non-terminated side and directs it through the terminated side. So as a crystal healer, I can gather up energy from my heart and direct it to you. You can also gather up energy and direct it to me. And you can also use this type of a wand, a single terminated, to activate grids. You can call in energy to support your intention for the grid and then use it like a pencil to activate a grid, which is, again, a topic for another class, but gives you an idea of how to work with single terminated. And as a crystal healer, I like both, because the double terminated ones are doing something kind of different. I call them the freeway, okay? This is sending and receiving the whole time. It's a different flow of energy. This is a more directed, singular flow of energy. This is a stronger and mutual double flow of energy, okay? So is it gathering energy from me? Yes, but not as much, because it's sending energy to me and then that energy is reverberating back out. So it's not as clean, crisp. Does that make sense? I can control what I'm gathering here. I can't control what I'm gathering here because of the termination. So if you want to do more focused, direct work, the other party bonus of this, and I will tell you, it's my favorite part of working with a wand like this. If you haven't had a massage with a single terminated wand, you are really missing out on one of the joys of life. Just a little bit of coconut oil or your favorite essential oil blend or solid perfume, whatever you work with. Our balms at Sage Goddess are popular for this. In the palm of your hand, kind of rub it there. When you have a headache, up the back of your neck. You know, like for me and my shoulder, getting into that shoulder blade area feels really good at the base of the spine, too, on either side of your spine. There's a lot of times, especially when we sit so much. I have ADHD, so I don't like to sit, but when we do sit a lot, you know, that energy kind of gets, again, stuck in those lower muscle groups, and moving it with the wand is moving energy. Remember, pain is energy that isn't moving. So as a crystal healer, my number one job is to get that energy moving in your system. And by the way, stuck energy doesn't just cause physical discomfort. It can also cause emotional discomfort. It can cause sadness. It can cause a lack of mental clarity. You know, anytime there's stuck energy moving, you can tell. You're discouraged, you're depressed, you're sad, you know, you just feel kind of like you've lost your mojo a little bit. And so moving energy through your system is the great gift of crystal healing, and it's going to make a difference in you, like I said, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So, okay, does that make sense about single terms and double terms? Gathering and sending, sending and sending. We call these transmitters, and that probably makes sense, right? Because it's sending and receiving, it's transmitting energy. Energy is just flowing through this nonstop. Now, if you want to make it a more focused experience, one of the things you can do before you work with a double term is you can open a circle, okay? Opening a circle can be done with any of the wands that you have in your collection, single term or double term. And I also like to work with selenite as a circle opening tool. What I mean by circle opening is, this is a big universe. It really is. It's a massive multiverse. We are one universe in a cluster of other universes inside a massive multiverse. That's a lot of energy, and most of it you can't see. And it is both positive and negative, because there's polarity in the universe. So there's good energy out there in that multiverse, and there's negative energy out there in that multiverse. When we're doing crystal healing, a lot of times it's a good idea to open a circle, which creates a boundary, it creates a container, and it tightens the perimeter, if that makes sense, so that the work that you're doing is really only impacted by your energy and your intention, and less so by this massive multiverse of forces. We are a big mother cluster, to quote Poe Allen. So the way you can open a circle is literally just holding the wand out in front of you and taking it behind you and then bringing it back in front of you, doing that clockwise and bringing it down. That opens your circle. If you've been with me for ceremony or, whether it's new moon or full moon or whatever else we do, meditations and journeys, I like to call in what are known as the guides and the guardians of the 4 directions, which is sort of like putting stakes in the ground. It's really tightening that container. That's up to you if you want to do that. When you're done with your energy work or your healing work, you do want to open that circle or close the circle that you opened. And that's just a good energetic hygiene, right? You don't want to leave yourself in this really tight container. You want to be, because you're not going to be having the same experience of life if you live your life in a circle, right? That's really for ceremonial purposes to kind of limit the interactions. You can open a circle sometimes if you feel overwhelmed. A lot of people, especially, I've just noticed the last couple of years, I don't know if you felt this way, it's like the energy's just too much sometimes. But people are really in a way right now. The mental health field is exploded, right? Most therapists I know aren't taking any new clients because they barely have enough time to sleep. People are having trouble right now. They're depressed, they're scared, they're discouraged, they're exhausted. And we're going through this weird ascension process. I've been talking about this too, where I think we're ascending our vibration as a species. And so there's just a lot of energy. So sometimes if you feel overwhelmed and you're having a lot of anxiety, try opening a circle and then just breathing for a few minutes there. Kind of puts a little bit of a boundary and a barrier around you. Now, the other option, if you don't want to open a circle or forget, is to have filtering crystals around you. This actually is something new from sagegoddess.com today. We had these made because I'm obsessed with them. These are called power pyramids. I'll talk about pyramids in just a couple of minutes, but shungite is a filtering stone. It keeps good energy in and bad energy out. It actually does that for your water too. It actually filters and purifies water, which is how we first started working with shungite during the Roman Empire. And so if you are feeling energetically overwhelmed, shungite, have a piece. In every room in my house, there's shungite. And there's in literally every room of this building, there's shungite. We're big believers in it. And you don't have to have a big piece. You can have a little tumbled piece. This is just kind of a cool thing to keep on your desk at work, to keep your crazy coworkers away. Turn down your computer. We're talking badly about them. But you know what I mean? Like if you are, I have a lot of school teachers who come to me for shungite. I have a lot of law enforcement who come for shungite. So it's interesting. There's people from all walks of life who are like, I need that filtering thing that you have. So shungite's good for that. Now I want to teach you about, the video's backward for you. So just remember clockwise to open a circle and counterclockwise to close the circle. That's all you need to remember. That'll help you. And shungite also does block electromagnetic frequencies. That's right, Diane Bowers. So that's just another sort of party bonus. We actually have those little pop socket things for the phone in shungite. I can't use it because I have a phone charger at home that won't work if I have one of those on my phone, which is a huge bummer. But we do have those if that's something you're interested in too. Now, let's come back and talk about Vogels because it is one of the more important lessons, I think, of tonight's class. So Marcel Vogel was a scientist too. Worked for IBM, I think, for 30 or more years and became obsessed with crystals. He started having visions in meditation of the Kabbalah tree of life. It's a really interesting true story. And he was told to have a crystal or have crystals carved in the shape of the tree of life. You've seen the Kabbalah tree of life, right? So when you look at a Vogel, which is wider on the top and more narrow on the bottom, it actually has sort of that tree of life structure to it. Okay, the wider end is the feminine end. The more narrow end is the masculine end. And so, just like I told you, do you remember that you gather energy with the rounded end and direct it with the pointy end? With a Vogel, you're gathering energy with the feminine end, the receiving end, and you're directing it with the projecting end, right? Feminine receives, masculine projects. I don't think I need to break that down for you and explain that to you in physiology. That would also be another class. Okay, so we gather at the wide end, we release in the narrow end. When I'm working with Vogels, I always open a circle. Now, there's different ways to think about Vogels. You are gathering energy and you are releasing energy. You are getting it out of the energy field. That means that extraction, you have to be within your field, right? Not past you don't want to be doing it out here. You want to be within the field to gather it, but you want to be outside the field to release it. Does that make sense? Think of this like taking out the trash, okay? Are you gonna take a bunch of trash out of your kitchen and then just dump it on your kitchen floor? Like, that wouldn't even make sense. You're gonna take the trash out in the kitchen and then put it out in the trash bin, okay? Now, the most important thing is you don't actually have to take this wand outside, but you do need to touch it to a hard surface, preferably wood. Most of my friends who are shaman and do a lot of what we call extraction, which is what this is, believe that wood is a really powerful material to hold it. The other thing some of my very crafty friends do, clever friends I should say, because this isn't really crafty, but it's clever, is they take, do you know those little tiny clay pots you can get at nurseries sometimes? They take one of those and they keep soil in it where they do their healing. And so as they extract and release, they actually are putting it into a little pot of soil. Because if you go and have extraction done in Peru or Central or South America, the medicine people there are going to take the extraction and release it into the earth, into Pachamama. So that's the more traditional. Barbara says she puts it in water. And you know what I love about that, Barbara? We know through our practice, right, that we can always release to the elements. The elements can hold, right? So I love that Barbara does a water release. I do an earth release. You certainly, I will tell you this too, and this is kind of sexy, but you know, make sure your stone is hard enough. You could release to fire. You could light a candle and release the extraction into the flame. That's powerful to do too. So I just want to kind of put that out there as different options. Sand would be perfect, Chris Gunn, and I like sand too because think about it, it's just another form of earth, right? So whether you're releasing to wood, which is what I'm going to do today, or you're releasing into soil, or you're releasing into water, because we're learning that from Barbara. Tanya does the fire. And it's beautiful to release, and actually to watch your crystal dance with the flame becomes its own form of meditation. You also can release to air. You can burn herbs or incense, let the smoke rise, and release into the smoke of the incense or the herbs. And that's a beautiful way to release too. What you don't want to do, so that's air. What you don't want to do is release it again back into your field or into somebody else's field, right? The whole point is it's an extraction. The whole point is to remove. You don't want to just leave the energy sitting in the room for it to either come back into your body, or we call it host jumping. Energies can jump from one host to another. So I have seen so many in my time, really good energy workers who have gotten very overweight, ended up getting sick in different cases, and the reason is their energy it's jumping fields. And because they're not extracting completely, the energy comes back into their own field and shows up as weight, and shows up as illness, and shows up as pain. Okay, so you want to, if you're a healer, I'm guessing you want to do this in a sustainable way that will allow you to be a healer for a long time. And so we don't want energy jumping, right? It's about intention, but it's also about practice. It's also about everything I'm telling you right now, because your intention can be to extract, but if your practice doesn't support the process, that even your intention can be overridden by your practice. Again, it's the tools and the practice and the intention together that create really powerful healing. Okay? All right, so what I want to show you is first we open a circle, and the nice thing is any Vogel can be used both for extraction and for opening the circle. That's why we carry so many of them at Sage Goddess, because we're obsessed with Vogels. So we're open a circle, and now if I was going to do this on myself, I kind of feel around to where the energy is stuck. And sometimes you can feel that physically, and sometimes you have to kind of sense it more than feel it. And once you've found it, you set your intention. So my intention today is to release this little pocket of energy in my left shoulder. And this is where... Now, the other way you can tell where to do it... We don't have a pendulum here, do we?
Let me grab one.
Sage Goddess does not have a pendulum.
What? I feel like you should have a pendulum here always.
I thought we did at some point, but...
If we're somewhere so I can run downstairs and grab my...
Well, and I can just tell you too, you can actually use your pendulum to tell if you're in the right place. As a crystal healer, I use my pendulum all the time. You know, like, is this the right place? Is this the right place? Is this the right place? And I wait for yes, okay? Then once you've identified where the pocket is, again, as long as you're within 12 inches, you're there. You don't have to physically touch your shoulder. You don't have to go in and gouge and do anything like that. Your field is big, right? You just don't want to be outside your wingspan, right? So again, this is your energy field. You have to be within that space to be impacting the field. So what you're going to do is take the feminine end, go in, gather, and again, almost imagining the energy coming into that wand. If you're clairsentient like I am, you can actually feel it. It feels kind of sticky. You can actually feel the energy being moved if that's one of your psychic gifts. And then take it and outside your field, extend to the table, to the floor, to the windows, to the walls. No, we're good. It's all right.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's all right, because we actually have so little time.
Okay.
But I appreciate it, Alexis.
You're welcome.
Okay, so again, and you can do it as many times as you want. Then you can play with it too and start to see where you feel it. You might go, ooh, I feel it a little stickier here and a little less sticky there. Rachel to the rescue with a pendulum. I love
Rachel
it.
the rescuer.
And then out and down. Okay, out of my wingspan. It's away from my body. Now, and then the other cool thing you can do with a pendulum is ask, did I move the energy? And it's saying yes. And then I always like to ask, is there anything else I need to do on this area? And it's saying no. It will tell you if you need to keep going. And you can say, should I do it again? Should I do it again? And it will tell you yes or no. And then as soon as you're done, whenever you're done, and you can do other crystal healing practices too in that same circle before you close it, then you just come through and again counterclockwise to close. It doesn't take long. You know, I think a lot of people build up crystal healing in their head as like, and now I will take 6 hours and engage in a crystal healing practice. And it's like, no, I have 2 teenagers, you know, a crazy ass life, all these amazing souls in this building that I work with, right? Like, I got shit going on. I can't take 6 hours. I can't even sometimes take 6 minutes. You know how it is if you're a working mom and aging parents and all the things, right? So it's like, everything's got to be quick. So I try to give you like really practical tools and tips and techniques that you can do almost anywhere at any time. And I like giving you alternatives for how to release that energy, because you might live right near a river, and how beautiful to release your energy into the water. You know what I mean? Like, and watch it flow away from you. Like, some of you are lucky like that, right? I live right near the Pacific Ocean on the you know, the beach cities here. So like, I could go and do a sunset thing, but again, I can also just go in my bathroom and have at it. I can do it in bed, right? So yeah, and it is well. So, and Ray is saying, you know, that the male end got really warm, right? It's very normal. Remember, when the crystal is working, it is moving the energy, right? The energy is moving through it. So your crystals will get warm, you'll get warm, and you'll learn as you go kind of like how to know when the energy is moving, how to know when things are successful. The other thing I'll tell you too is be consistent. When I was really struggling with my arm, I was at the point where I like really couldn't lift my arm very well. And I was insisting, no pain meds, and I don't like to take stuff like that. And I was really consistent. I worked on it every day for like a month. And then slowly but surely, to the point now where I have full mobility, you know, without anti-inflammatories, which, you know, for me, that's always a win when you can do that, right? Okay, so that's Vogels for you. Now I want to tell you real quick, Vogels come with different numbers of sides. Do you see? Some have 6 sides, some have 8 sides, some have 12 sides. They have different meanings. So I want to run through them really quickly with you. I have a Vogel at home that's over, I think it's 144 sides. It's beautiful, it's huge, and it's micro-cut. I don't have stuff like that at Sage Goddess because those get very expensive, and that's my big gun. I didn't even have to use that on this arm. But when I'm dealing with people who have like severe pain and mobility issues, I will often bring out the big gun. I always hold my Vogels when I'm opening and closing circles with the feminine side out. Because again, I'm gathering, right? Yeah. And when you're closing the circle, you could consider having the masculine side out instead. It would be kind of a cool practice too. Okay, now, 6-sided Vogels, which is most quartz crystals, for example, are hexagonal. All quartz crystals are hexagonal. So they naturally have 6 sides. A 6-sided crystal is for balancing energy. If you think about it, the number 6 is a balancing number, right? It's 2, the hexagon is a upright pyramid and a pyramid pointing down, right? What we call the Star of David, which is the hexagon. And so that's about balancing. In some spiritual traditions, we say as above, so below, right? It's like balancing the spirit world with the physical world, balancing for me, upper chakras and lower chakras, right? Balance for me in my health is extremely important. If you have a central nervous disorder like I do, then balance is actually the whole thing, right? So I'm constantly working with kyanite. I'm constantly working with any kind of stone that grows in a hexagonal form, which includes, fortunately for me, a lot of different crystals, right? And like I said, all quartz-based minerals are hexagonal. Then the 8-sided Vogels, the number 8, if you turn it on its side, is the infinity symbol. So 8 always represents infinite health, wealth, potential, possibility. So we work with 8-sided Vogels because that rotation, that spin, creates a wider vortex of energy. What Marcel Vogel has said consistently is the more sides of your Vogel, the faster the spin. So this Vogel is going to spin, the energy is going to rotate around it faster than this Vogel because it has more sides. Now that's not always what you want. I will tell you, my big mama, big daddy, the microfaceted one is almost too much for me to use in healing. That's why I only use it when somebody is very seriously ill, has real, overwhelming challenges, because I can't even hold it for very long. Whereas a tool that has 6 sides, like the lepidolite Vogels that we have for you, this I can work with all day long. It doesn't wear me out. In fact, I feel quite balanced when I'm done with it. Does that make sense? Because it's a balancing tool. Okay, I know this can get complicated, but it seems like you guys are tracking me really well. So that's good. Hopefully I'm being clear, and I'm glad that you guys are keeping up too. No, so all Vogels are double-sided. Yeah, so a single terminated Vogel is just a single terminated one. It's a great question though. Okay, 12-sided Vogels, completion of cycles. These are more ceremonial. This is about removing, like let's say you're coming out of a divorce, or you've been through radical grief like me this year, you lost a parent like I did, or something like that. I like to use a 12-sided Vogel because what we're doing is, when we're releasing grief, when we're releasing sadness, when we're releasing loss, especially through the heart chakra, what we're also doing is calling in a new cycle, right? So if you're coming out of a divorce, we're going to call in a new cycle of love and connection. If you're coming out of grief like me, we're going to call in a new cycle of finding your joy again, right? And healing from that. So I love cycle renewal tools. So if you ever wonder, like, why do people collect Vogels with different sides? You're starting to kind of see the picture, right? And so 12-sided is for clearing anything that is from a past cycle. It's also kind of nice to do too when you start a new relationship. It can clear some of the energetic baggage out of your field, so you don't bring some of that into the new relationship. When you're starting a new job, it's nice to do too, like releasing the energy of whatever you used to do, or bringing that in, and anything, whether you're releasing abandonment or grief. These are all really low density vibrations. And I'll tell you something, your body doesn't want them. Your body, you need, when you're in grief, you need to honor it. You need to work your process. My process has taken me a year, and I'm not trying to rush it. But at the same time, I know that my body wants me to heal this and move forward. The human body is resilient. It naturally seeks what we call homeostasis. Your body wants to heal itself. If you give it enough time and nutrients, it will. But if you don't work to process and move energy through your system, then you're not maximizing your own healing potential. Does that make sense? So we need to feel what we feel. We need to feel the grief. If you repress it, then you're going to have problems later, right? But we also can't just sit there in it like we're in a bathtub of it and we're relaxing, right? We have to help our body move that energy at the same time. Okay, now there are other sides. There's 16 sides, 24 sides, like I said, up to 144 sides. Start with 6, 8, or 12 is my recommendation, and that tends to be what we have at Sage Goddess, just because those are good places to begin. They're going to be potent tools for you. Like I said, for my own pain, which was really tough to move, I didn't use anything above 12. So the faster the rotation of the energy sometimes can just make it harder to work with. Doesn't mean it's not a big gun, but it's, you know what I mean, it can be more challenging. Okay, what else do I want to tell you about that? The other thing I want to say about removing energy from your field is it is a constant process. It is a constant process. I can feel like I'm all clear and like the angels are singing, and I can walk out of this building and, you know, somebody cuts me off on the freeway and I call them a jerk and they flip me off, and now I've got an intrusion. You know what I mean? Like, because we're human and we're constantly interacting with each other, and so it's impossible. I can go home and, you know, interact with my family and something happens, or talk to a friend and it's weird or whatever, right? And also, despite our best intentions to live a good life and to learn how to manage our energy is leaky. I mean, it just is. It's sticky, and it's especially sticky with people we love. That's why sometimes the hardest people to be in relationship with is your family, right? Because the closer you are, especially blood relationships, the stickier the energy gets. And so it's a constant process. There's lots of different ways to clear your field. I do recommend that at least once a day you take something like white sage, which is my favorite. That's actually where Sage Goddess started. Salvia apiana is very powerful, and very little can sustain itself in the presence of this if it's not good for you. Now, some people don't like it. I won't judge you. I love it, but you don't have to love it. We also have Palo Santo. We have Copal that we work with. And then there are other clearing stones. There is obsidian, which the Aztecs believed was hardened fire. It actually is, right, because it comes from lava. And obsidian and also shungite can cleanse, clear, and purify your field too. Salt baths. I take a salt bath every night, even if I don't want to, because I needed to clear the energy. That is the last thing I do before bed. Set the intention. I send everybody's energy back to them. I call all of my energy back to me. I've got salt all over my skin, because your skin is the largest organ of your body, right? So you got to cleanse, clear, and purify. And make sure also that your hands and your feet really get into that salt water too, because they're your transmitters. You are constantly sending and receiving energy with your hands and your feet. So it's very important to keep your hands and your feet clear. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say just quickly about energetic blockages. I could talk about it all day long, and it actually is one of my favorite subjects, because what I like to teach you is stuff that's actually going to have an impact on your life. If you follow even just some of the things we're talking about today, you will have a direct experience of healing. And if you're consistent with it and you align that with intention and practice, the outcome is remarkable. It impacts everything. I mean, it's really funny, because some people have been watching me on YouTube for 10 years, and they actually say that I look younger today than I did when I started Sage Goddess. I think it's the energy. I mean, there's nothing really special about what I do. I eat Cheetos and, you know, try to do yoga as often as I can, and I belly dance a little bit, but like I haven't had any work done. I really think it's the energy that keeps you young, and moving the energy through your system so it doesn't get stuck, which even impacts your skin. Were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Alexis might have something to add.
No, I mean, well, since you bring it up, I didn't want to interrupt earlier.
Yeah.
Hi guys. So when you were talking about the Vogels and the spin, I got a really interesting question in Soul Shift or either Soul Shift or Crystal Masters in the live Q&A. Someone they got the increase the spin grid, because we've really been focusing a lot on that with products and just talking about it in general. And she said that she put it in, like, I think it was in her living room or where she relaxes. And she was talking about how she was really struggling to relax. And I was telling her it's not necessarily a relaxing tool. It's more of a motivating tool. Not a motivating tool, but it's an energizing tool. It's kind of like drinking a cup of coffee if you're trying to go to sleep.
No, it's really true. So and I'm glad you raised that point, because there are certain crystals, remember we talked about the dominant oscillatory rate, and there are certain frequencies that will increase your frequency, right? We call that spin, right? So when we say raise the vibe, we're really talking about increasing the spin of energy in your field. That is not what you want when you're going to bed. At night, you want to be working with more of your lepidolites, and I like sodalite. You might want to work with garnet, which definitely helps to just sort of decrease the rotation in your field, which will help you rest, right? So yeah, we have to remember, I always tell people, not too much quartz in the bedroom. I mean, unless you're really trying to do Olympics in there. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to judge you. You do you in the bedroom. But if you're not trying to do Olympics in the bedroom, maybe just have a few that you bring in for the Olympics, and then when you're done with the Olympics, you take them and you put them in your kitchen. I have a lot of quartz in my kitchen, but the kitchen is an active place. It's where kids, come for breakfast and get ready before school. It's where I cook, right? It's a gathering place for conversation, and so that's a place where having a lot of quartz is well aspected, because it's going to increase the rotation, the frequency of the spin. Okay.
I see Kelsey requesting a bronzite Vogel.
I thought we had one at some point.
We may have, but I think it's a good idea to bring it back with 12 sides.
A 12-sided product, team, SG.
I'm taking notes. I'm sending everyone an email after this.
Yeah, I see you guys asking some specific questions about specific health concerns. So I'm going to mention a few more things to you, and then if there's time at the end, I would welcome those questions. Someone was asking about COPD. My mom actually died of complications of COPD. And unfortunately for lungs, it's very hard to move that energy sometimes. And so we can talk about some of the things that I worked on with her to help her. And she lived a lot longer than anybody thought she was going to. I was very, very lucky to have her as long as I did. Okay, so I want to talk briefly about pyramids, and then open us up for questions. So absolutely, generators. That's right, Trisha. Are really, if you think about it, single terminated wands. So they're kind of multi-purpose, and the other benefit of a generator. I don't know that we have one here, do we?
We have one up here.
Okay. She'll grab one.
Yeah. The one I moved because it was growing out of your head.
It literally looked like it was like growing out of the back of my head. Wouldn't I be lucky to have a tiger-side generator growing out of my head?
You'd never get tired.
I know, and I would always be right. It's an accuracy stone. Yay! But anyway, this is a generator, and the way generators came about really is that they're six-sided traditionally, and quartz points grow on a cluster, and they're all six-sided. So what carvers would do is just slice it off the cluster, and boom, you have a generator. This shape is what we use for like the centerpiece of a grid, because what generators do, because they have a completely flat bottom, they gather too, but it's a wider surface. So they gather energy at the base, funnel it up to the top, and then the energy loops back down, almost like a fountain. So the energy, and then when we work with a sphere, it's a completely different experience, because a sphere radiates energy in all directions. So in terms of, we've talked about spin and rotation, right? But we haven't talked about flow and direction. This is going to have the tightest flow of energy of anything you work with. It's going to spin it really tight, because it's literally like a fountain, like creating a vortex or a whirlpool of energy. This is going to dissipate energy, because it's going to send that energy in all directions, but it's really cool because it can send it all the way through your house. It can send it all the way through your car. As a crystal healer, it can send it all the way through the field, right? So one tool woven through those energy centers, those chakras, now has moved that energy. I feel grounded already. It's great to hold for meditation too. I love to hold. I almost said something that would really be too much for me right now. I was going to say, I love to hold two is in my hands. But a sphere in each hand is really good for meditation. There, I said it. Fortunately, most of you probably missed it, so I won't get myself in trouble.
Did you say a sphere is better to hold in meditation?
No, I was saying I like to hold 2 balls in my hands.
Oh.
We just moved right on. I'm so proud of you. Look how well behaved we are today. I really love that. Okay, pyramids. I just want to briefly touch on this because there's actually a connection between Vogels and pyramids. I see the tee-hee there, Christina Galtare. I see your tee-hee, darling. Okay, now the pyramids. And I wanted to make sure I told you this story correctly too, because it was a story that my friend had told me. The angle of the pyramids in Giza is the exact angle of a properly formed Vogel crystal. So the way that I'm sure you realize this, but the pyramids in Egypt had to be moved by extraterrestrial forces, right? I mean, we all can agree on that now, right? There are not a bunch of small human beings who could build those and move those. So we know that they had friends who were helping them, called the sky gods. And the pyramids were built as sound chambers, right? They run up and down. The pyramids in Giza, there's actually one for each chakra. And the priests would decide what kind of healing you needed. They would take you into the sound chamber for whatever your healing need was, and the sound would vibrate through your whole body. It's kind of like the ultimate sound bath. By the way, the Egyptians were much wiser than us. They had better extraterrestrial technology than we do, and I think they were much more advanced as a civilization than we are. I think we think of ourselves as being so modern because we have the interwebs. They had much better stuff than the internet to work with. And there's a lot of proof of that in terms of the intricacy of the structure of the pyramids themselves. So the reason we work with pyramids as crystals, and remember, an obelisk is mostly structurally what you see. Around the pyramids in Giza, you see obelisks. Always at the entrance to the temples, there would be 2 obelisks. An obelisk is a pyramid that just is extended down. It's 4 sides on the bottom, and it's a pyramid on the top. The difference between an obelisk and a generator is that an obelisk is 4-sided on the top, and a generator is 6-sided on the top. See the difference? Oh, she's got one right here. Thank you. So that's an obelisk. See how it's a pyramid on the top? And it just has longer walls. The Egyptians, what they were trying to do with obelisks was they were trying to take the pyramids and push them up to God. I mean, truly, they were trying to reach the gods. And so they would build their obelisks as tall as they could, but the shape that was so sacred to them was the pyramid. And you're always going to find a pyramidal shape, which is 4 equilateral triangles on the top of any obelisk that you see. These both function the same way, okay? Both flat-sided, both gathering energy from the base, directing it to the top and looping it through and creating that sort of vortex of energy. The difference is the shape. The Egyptians were not as concerned with 6-sided generators. Now, they were mining quartz. There are plenty of structures in Egypt that were and are built of quartz, so they did have access to it. But they were not as interested, at least in those ancient times, in the shape of a generator as much as they were the obelisk because of the importance of pyramids to them. So pyramids are very powerful tools. They also represent they're one of the Platonic solids, by the way. That's another story for another class. But Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, believed that there were sort of 5 building blocks of life, which there are 5 shapes and 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And so those are called the Platonic solids. The pyramid happens to be the tetrahedron, which is one of the Platonic solids that Plato pointed to as a building block of life. Okay. The number 3 is important because it represents the Holy Trinity. It represents Maiden Mother Chrome. And then the 4-sided bottom represents the balance of the primary 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. So there's lots of numerical significance. And then these little power pyramids that we make are super cool because it's 1 pyramid on top, 9 on the bottom, and this is shungite. We have these at sagegoddess.com. I do recommend getting one. If anything I've talked to you about tonight in terms of clearing energy, filtering energy, and then the structure of the pyramids themselves has resonated with you, this is kind of the ultimate combination of all of that. And we'll put the link up for you too. Your code at sagegoddess.com for 23% off right now is Harvest. Harvest. Okay. Now before I answer questions, we have a little gift for you guys. We just thought how fun. There's, almost 900 of you live right now. And we thought what a fun way to give you a little extra special treat. If you shop at sagegoddess.com for any of the things that we've shown you today, and I think Karen has put most of the links up for the different products as we've been going through. Yes. And you put in your notes either pyramid or wand. These are actually little tiny Vogels. We're going to send these to you as a gift. Isn't that cool? The pyramids are rainbow moonstone from India, which has black tourmaline in it too, which is super protective. So it's protection and manifestation. And the little Vogels are sunstone. And there's no minimum purchase. So even if you just get a little tumbled stone or a perfume sample or whatever's singing to you today, if you put pyramid in your notes or wand in your notes, that's from now until midnight tonight. We're going to send you a little gift. And you can still save the 23% off with your code. So I know, right? So fun. I do want to give away just a couple of things really quickly. And then I'm going to see if you guys have any questions for just a few minutes before we sign off. Who needs the ultimate pain relief stone, bloodstone, in the form of the ultimate energetic extraction tool? Who needs a bloodstone Vogel? I'm going to give this one away right this minute to one of you. So just say yes or give it to me, and I'm going to choose a winner, and then we'll mail it to you tomorrow. Isn't that fun? Bloodstone is I have 3 favorite stones for pain relief. Axonite is one of them. Natrolite is one of them, but those are both rare stones. And then there's bloodstone, which is not as rare, so it's more affordable, and it's very effective when it comes to pain relief. So let's see who needs a little Vogel magic tonight. I love giving things away. If you're new to Sage Goddess, we do this a lot. Let's see. All right, Spirit. Look at all of you. I'm so grateful you were here today. I hope you really enjoyed our time together, because I have to tell you, I did. And Team SG did a beautiful job of organizing everything for today. So thank you so much for your help today. Okay, this one is going to Esther Morris. Esther says, me please, I need healing, thanks. If I could reach through the screen and just give it to you, I would. But Esther, what you want to do is write in to, you're going to send an email to support.sagegoddess.com. It's actually not an email, it's a website that you're going to go to, and you're going to send a message, support.sagegoddess.com. And all you're going to say is, hi, I'm Esther Morris. Athena gave me a bloodstone Vogel. Here's my address. And then Sabrina and team will create a manual order for you and get this shipped off to you right away. So congratulations. I love that. And who needs... This is a powerful tool. This is a pyramid. Can you see it? Made out of prehnite with epidote, which is a stone that heals the healer. So this will bring you power and protection as a healer. The reason we like prehnite as healers is because we don't want to take on other people's energy. I talked about that earlier, right? Sometimes we end up taking on people's problems. If we don't have good boundaries and we don't know how to work our practice, we can end up taking on people's energy. So they feel better and all of a sudden we don't. So I like to work with this stone. Who needs a prehnite pyramid for your healing room or your healing altar? This would be a great one to work with for a healing altar. It's all the magic of Egypt with all the magic of Africa, which is where most prehnite with epidote comes from. Isn't that cool? Yeah, and hopefully today's class, if you are one of those people who's like, oh, I kind of do that, I kind of take on other people's energy. Hopefully today's been good in terms of like just reminding you about some or teaching you for the first time maybe about some practices that can help you sustain better boundaries, because it's really important. Boundaries are not just for you. Boundaries are not just for other people. They're for you too, to protect you. Okay. This one is going to Jen Norman. Congratulations, Jen Norman. I'm going to send this to you tomorrow. So ditto, right? I need you to go to support.sagegoddess.com and let Sabrina and her team know, hey, I'm Jen Norman. And they're going to go, hey, I'm going to send you a pre-night pyramid. So congratulations to Jen. Okay. One. Yeah, they're both beautiful, but that one really caught my eye. Okay. Now, what questions do you have? Do you have any questions that I can answer in the next few minutes? And cheers to both Esther and Jen today. It's always fun to send new healing tools off to their homes. What can I tell you? What's coming to mind if you're like, oh, but I still don't understand this? Or could you talk briefly about that? Would love to see if there's anything else on your mind before I sign off for today.
I did see a couple interesting questions before you started the giveaways. So before I forget them, one of them was, what about the 8-sided generators? And for that, I would say pretty much the same properties.
Same as the Vogels. Yeah, so the infinite generators that we had, which were 8-sided, remember we talked about 8 being the infinity symbol on its side? That would be the same properties. It's a great question. Let me see. Hold on real quick, because there's a couple coming through here too. When you release energy into an element, do you have to dispose of that element in a particular way? No, that's the nice thing about releasing to the elements. The elements are self-limiting. The elements clear themselves. That's what's really, really great. And I'll tell you, like I said earlier, when you go to Central and South America and you work with the healers and the curanderos there, one of the things that, at least for me in those experiences, that's been really profound is how much they keep it simple. They don't overthink things. Like here in the West and in more of the developed countries doing healing work and shamanism and shamanic practices, we tend to overthink things. And in some of the more indigenous traditions and cultures, they don't. There's kind of an inherent trust in the integrity of the elements themselves. And in particular, the element of earth. You know, when you release to soil, you release to wood, you release to sand, for example. If you're going to the beach, you can release to the sand. Earth has a real capacity to hold energy. That's why it's such a grounding force. That's why when you feel unstable, the most valuable thing you can do is take your shoes off and go stand on it. And work with the energy of the Earth Star chakra, which is right beneath your feet. So it's a great question, but in my experience, you can trust the elements to clear themselves, which is part of their gift to you. Marissa's having gallbladder removed tomorrow. Is there a particular crystal I can use to support my body? For me, I would point you to solar plexus stones. I'm also feeling called to tell you malachite, and that's just an intuitive hit for you. But I'm also feeling called to tell you golden healer quartz would be good, citrine would be good. If you have yellow aventurine or yellow jasper, those would be good alternatives for you too. And then as you're healing, bloodstone. Bloodstone improves circulation. It strengthens most of the physical body systems, including the skeletal muscular systems. How do you use a Vogel not for pain? Amy, primarily a Vogel is used for removing energy, but it doesn't have to just be pain. It can also be heavy emotions that you're dealing with. I've worked with it for grief this year and loss, right? So anytime you're feeling overwhelming, intense emotions, you can ask yourself where in your body that energy is sitting, and you might say, well, I actually feel it. It's heart pain, but I feel it in my back, or it's heart pain, but I feel it in my neck. And then just go in with the Vogel to help to move the emotional energy too. Let's see. You can, yes, there are people who can repair your stones if they're chipped. I would take it to a jeweler. They most likely have good equipment to be able to do that. And if you've chipped the tip of a generator or a point, I will tell you, my chipped pieces still work really well. I don't think it has to be like perfect. Nature herself is not perfect. You know, when we polish things, we make them human perfect, but nature herself is not always perfect. The best crystal for family drama, number one, there's two crystals, kunzite and blue calcite. If you've got drama in the family, first of all, I see you. I don't have it right now, but holy shit, I've had it in spades. And kunzite and blue calcite are the two. Let's see. How long of a salt bath do I take daily, and how hot is the water? Not too hot, but like, you know, hot is such a relative thing. I do like a nice warm bath. And I tend to soak for, if I don't have a lot of time, at least 5 minutes. If I can be luxurious. Last night I was luxurious because the kids had their friends over and, you know, everybody was off doing their own thing. So last night I did a solid like 20 minutes, which for me is like 6 hours because I can't do anything for longer than a half an hour without driving myself crazy. But I have playlists for bath time on my SoundCloud account. If you are following me on SoundCloud, the team can link you to my SoundCloud account. I have a playlist called Bath Beats. There's a Shakti playlist if you want to have like kind of a sexy bath with bubble bath and things like that. But if you're in and out, I also have a playlist called Moving Energy, which are really good songs for helping to clear energy from your field. And so I'd recommend putting on one of my SoundCloud playlists, dimming the lights, lighting a couple candles. I use a good solid handful of salt. And I throw it. It's true. And then, you know, if I'm trying to do something else in particular, I'll use certain essential oils or essential oil blends. So yeah, I love it. Can a pyramid be used as a generator? Yes. Short answer to your question, Lisa, yes. I mean, basically, it's more or less the same thing. That's why I kind of like to show you how these tools are interchangeable, because if you've got a flat bottom and a pointed top, you more or less have a generator. And by definition, that's what a pyramid is. And you can also use spheres as the centerpiece of grids too, which a lot of people don't think about, right? If you only have a shower, you can still do this. What I like to do for people who only have a shower, take your salt, make it into a scrub. I like to take salt, fine salt. I like Epsom salt because it's full of magnesium, helps your muscles. Mix it with some good extra virgin coconut oil, which you can get anywhere. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it at the grocery store. Mix that together, just a little bit of coconut oil to a couple of cups of good salt, and keep that in a little jar in your shower, and just do a scrub. Same thing. Make sure your hands and your feet. That's probably the most important. How do you choose stones for Vogels? Intuition and chakras. If you're not familiar with the chakras, and I'm not just saying this to plug my book, but my book called The Ultimate Guide to Chakras is the best-selling chakra book ever written. I'm really proud of it. Over, I think, 200,000 copies, and it's been translated into 6 or 8 languages. So I really do recommend that book. It's the best foundational book on chakras. I really took my time writing it, researching it, and sharing my best practices with you. It also has stones for all the chakras, gives you affirmations and mantras and projects and everything you can imagine. You can find it on Amazon. Sometimes I have signed copies on sagegoddess.com, but I don't think I do right now. But I would get that book. I would read about the chakras and learn, because you're going to go, oh, wow, my crown chakra is a mess. And then that would lead you to wanting a lepidolite Vogel, which is a crown chakra stone. So, because for me, crystal healing and chakras, they're partner practices, right? Because which part of your body you're working on depends on where the imbalance is. You have 7 energy centers in your body. Crown is top of your head, right? That's your center of spirituality and faith. Your third eye right here, your ajna, is your intuition. Then you have your throat chakra for expression, communication, and truth. Your heart chakra for love. You have your solar plexus chakra, power, strength, will. Sacral chakra, sex, desire, passion, creativity. And then your root chakra, which is safety, connection, and home. So any imbalance, and I've taught classes actually here on YouTube. You can find them for free. I taught a class on the ages at which the chakras develop. Because if you had childhood trauma, for example, before the age of 5, you may well have a root chakra imbalance that you're not aware of, because that's when the root chakra is forming. So there's a lot of resources for you at Sage Goddess and in my work and my writing too that can really help to support you and answer some questions that we probably just don't have time to get to today. And maybe we have to do a part 2 of this at some point. Mm-hmm. So thank you. I want to thank you again for coming. We've had so much fun with you today. if you want this to continue, you are really cordially invited. My crystal healing class is called Crystal Masters. I'll show this to you just because I like to remember links. sagegoddess.com/programs. It's $40 a month. You get a 3-hour live class and a private Facebook group where Alexis and Karen and I moderate and answer your questions. And you can join anytime. If you were to join today, you'd be just in time for August class, which will be next week.
The following week.
So
we have
yeah, sorry, not this week. 2 weeks from today.
2
weeks from today, because we're starting Soul Shift. Soul Shift meets every month, or every week, I should say. It's 4 times a month. It's a lot of me, though. If you're just starting, you may just want a little bit less of me. There are some people who do want the whole enchilada, and you can sign up for that too. And actually, Soul Shift includes Crystal Masters, so some people decide to do Soul Shift because they're like, oh, I like this is fun, I want to see her all the time. Because you really do see me all the time. So if you join, you're going to start with session 1 of Soul Shift next week, or if you join Crystal Masters, you're going to start 2 weeks from today, which is Crystal Masters for August. I know, and I'm going to be another year older and wiser by the time class starts.
Oh yeah.
Session 1 is the day after my birthday. So, it was wonderful to see you too. Thank you for taking the time to be here as well. It was our pleasure. I love sharing what I know, especially if it can help you and support you in your healing process. And like I said, if you know anybody who loves crystals and wants to learn more, maybe they weren't here live today, just share the link with them. This will be recorded and archived on YouTube for the rest of our lives. So you can always come back and watch it again later or refresh, but I hope you enjoyed it. It was our pleasure to do it for you. So thank you to Alexis. And thank you to Karen. And again, everybody at Team SG who worked hard to organize this. Rachel, thank you for running in with our pendulum right at the last minute and helping us set up today. Appreciate all of you.